867. $445. 447. 2728.
Hello?
Hi, Celine.
Hi.
You're on speaker here. Okay, and we're just about to start the meeting here.
Okay, thanks.
Is the owl on now? Okay, thank you. Welcome, everybody, to this evening's council meeting, regular meeting RM13-2021. We'll call our meeting to order. And I have a motion moved by Councillor Lafferty, seconded by Councillor Morrow, that council adopts the agenda of regular meeting RM13-2021. I would like to add two additions. One is hold on to that. Is the delegation. We have Lane Welshar. Is that how you say your last name? Weishauer.
Yeah.
Great. With the RCMP, and that would be 6 under 6. And under 11B, under new business, I'd like to add Red Cross support. Does anybody else have any additions? All right, then if I could just say amended then to the motion with permission of the mover and seconder, and I'll repeat it. The council adopts the agenda of regular meeting RM13-2021 as amended. Can I get a show of hands first? Okay, 5. And Councillor Hassan?
Yes.
Okay, and Deputy Mayor Antoine?
Yes.
Okay, so we got 6 in favor, 7. None against. Motion's carried. Any declarations of interest in any of the items tonight? All right, hearing none, I'll move on to item 5. And we do not have any councillor absences tonight. 2 are attending by phone, the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Hassan. Other than that, we got a full quorum. So, and if I could ask our delegation, Lane Weishauer, to come up to the table, maybe right here. And thank you, Lane. Council had asked that we have a representative from the RCMP come down. Last regular meeting, we had talked a little bit about concerns over four-wheelers and so many kids using their four-wheelers in town, speeding, that kind of stuff. And I think what the council wanted to do was ask what in cooperation with the RCMP might be able to be done. Right? We know we have our own municipal bylaw concerning ATVs, but we also know there's a territorial all-terrain vehicle legislation. And am I saying enough there, councillors? Is there any specific area that we should be addressing with ATVs? Is it speeding or just on the roads when they shouldn't be?
I think, if I may, I think the concern was that we do have a bylaw officer that is not really enforcing that area, I think. And then so the concern was because we have a bylaw that addresses the ATV, the RCMP wouldn't step in because of that. Right? That was something that was
Yeah,
raised?
sort of-
Yeah,
sort of-
something like that, so.
Sort of, yeah, is the
There's just-
RCMP not enforcing, I guess, the ATV territorial regulations because they're aware that we have a municipal bylaw concerning ATVs within our municipal boundaries? That was one question we had for the RCMP.
Okay.
Yeah.
So typically, we actually don't receive a high amount of ATV calls. Like, if we see these offenses occurring out on general patrol, if we're not busy, we usually stop them. For the most part though, like, when we do see it, it's the typical stuff like no helmets, or they're coming off Antoine Drive
Mm.
and they don't really have a side road where they can go off to if they're not licensed or insured. And at that point, we usually just warn them, okay, as soon as you get to the end of the street, go off onto the side ditch, where those big mountains of
Oh, yeah.
dirt are behind the student residences,
Mhm.
and to travel through there. So no, we still will enforce the Territorial ATV Act. We've had a couple instances already of us stopping ATV motorists, and so on and so forth. But yeah, we have no problem doing that. And one of the initiatives we're putting forward, because we recognize that most of the time this is young kids or kids who don't necessarily have a driver's license yet and still feel they can use this as a way of transportation. What we're trying to do is we've, in conjunction with Moz and Unity, we started handing out like a sort of a good behavior reward ticket. So for the kids that are abiding by these laws, wearing their helmets, driving off to the side of the road, we'll pull them over and say like, hey, good job. Thank you for continuing to follow the rules. And we're hoping that will deter them from being, I guess, dealt with us in a negative light. So they get these reward tickets, and then it's usually like a free Slurpee or something over at Unity. So that's kind of the initiative we're trying to roll
That's
out
good.
this year.
Yeah, that's good.
Does that answer your guys' question?
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, maybe we hear sometimes, people complaining about the speed, that machines are going around town, or the lateness of the hour and what have you. Maybe these people aren't calling in as much as they should, and we should be encouraging them to do that
Yep.
if there's an issue, because by the time they talk to us, of course, it's just, a concern and it's days late. There's nothing you can do about it. So, yeah, I prefer as you say, the education and positive reinforcement approach. Because you don't want to chase kids on four-wheelers. That's
No.
probably the worst thing to do, right?
And for the most part, in our policy doesn't even allow for that,
Right.
unless it's an egregious circumstance, like they just murdered somebody and they're
Yeah.
going on a killing spree, which
Yeah.
is highly unlikely
Yeah.
to be the case here. But our policy doesn't even allow for that. So we know the risks of doing that, so that you won't have an issue with that.
Well, as long as we have you here too, maybe if counselors have any other questions regarding policing in the community, update on any other initiatives. I know as it gets darker towards the fall, every year we sort of try with the armband thing, right? As it gets dark and you get a lot of people still walking up and down the hill.
Yeah.
We usually try to partner with you in some way, help to pay for those armbands, reflectives.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, that would be definitely helpful. This summer, especially as it gets later in the summer towards September, when it actually is starting getting dark out around midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m.
mhm.
area. So
I know we've had a couple fires in the community lately. Is there any public information you can give about that?
So I can't give away too much at this time. What I will say is right now they don't appear to be related. I'm currently investigating the one that occurred yesterday. It's still in its infancy. We got a few leads there. Other than that, they don't seem to be. It's hard to say whether they're targeted innocent, but they don't appear to be related by any standard. In saying that, though, we understand the concerns recently, like across the country, with the churches and other government institutions possibly being targeted. As a result, even though we are running very short staff now, especially the departure of Corporal Gardner, Constable Gardner, that we are going to try and increase patrols during our nights, especially in these higher risk areas such as the Pentecostal church. Main Street is pretty well patrolled for the most part, and then around the government areas, mostly downtown area.
Okay. And any other questions, councillors?
Well, Martina is involved with the RC Church, and she's sometimes she does the service and stuff. So I was just wondering if this have something to do with her being one of those church people.
So somebody had actually reported suggesting possibly the same thing. There's nothing from the evidence gathered, anybody we talked to, that would suggest that she was targeted due to a religious reason. It is definitely possible, and I wouldn't rule it out, especially considering everything that's going on right now. Just based on what we've seen, who we spoke to, I don't believe that is the case at this time. Like I said, I can't really divulge too much more than that, just because they are both still active investigations.
Yeah.
We're working in conjunction with like our bigger boss out of Hay River, which is it's supposed to be Staff Sergeant Ken Beard, but right now it's the acting Staff Sergeant Curtis Billipow, and he's been very helpful with this, and he's trying to get like major crimes to give us a hand and assist in any way they can as well. So it's on the radar even in Yellowknife of what's going on in Simpson. So we are expecting to get some like investigational assistance. They might not necessarily come out here, but they can also help guide us and show us what we need to look for and stuff like that to help out. So we're gonna take every avenue we can, and hopefully we can get a result from that.
Okay. And I guess from a reporting point of view, since the flood, have you noticed any other increases in any type of behaviors which are causing the RCMP more work?
One thing I've noticed, we're dealing with a lot more public intox calls lately.
Right.
Especially since the collapse of the shelter. We're
Right.
dealing with there's a few more violent calls around that, but also the typical somebody's passed out on a bench, or they're laying in a park, or laying down on the street since the shelter's been gone. Eric's done a pretty good job so far over on that side, but we're still noticing an influx. And I mean, that's also natural too, because we're starting to get a few more residents from outside the community too. So with more residents coming, more calls go up, and it's also the start of summer too. And we typically notice a jump in calls from winter to summer, at least since I've been here. So.
Okay. Right. Well, if council doesn't have any other further questions, I won't delay you there. I appreciate you coming down, giving us a quick update.
No problem.
And clearing up a little bit on the, also on the four-wheelers. Appreciate RCMP helping out in that area.
Yeah, for sure. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Yep. Thanks, guys.
Okay, item number 7, and I have a motion for the first set of minutes. Motion moved by Councillor Lafferty, seconded by Councillor McPherson, that council approved the minutes of RM 11-2021, June 7, 2021. Any? Yes.
I wasn't at the meeting, so is it okay for me to second it?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's okay then.
Okay.
Is that the one with the, that had the discussion, the motion about the mass graves?
It could be.
Yes, it did. It does.
Because there was a wording issue with the minutes, and I was hoping to have them compared to the, what was said on the owl regarding that. Because I felt like it was misinterpreted. Maybe the statement had been misinterpreted a little bit, maybe.
That's the RM 11, June 7th, right?
It just
Well,
thinks
they
I
here.
just noticed it was on the agenda there, and I skimmed through it, and I looked through it, and I the words that I saw there were unfamiliar to me virtually. I mean, I recognized the context or the general statement, but that's not, certainly wasn't exactly what I was
It must
saying.
be on the second.
It's on the 7th. It says here to advocate for an investigation to test various locations in Fort Simpson that may be mass graves related to First Nations burial.
Right.
What's the wording that you wanted in there, Mr.
Well, it
Simpson?
was just that it was I guess maybe the advocacy thing. I just didn't know whether or not that was,
Strong enough?
well, yeah, I mean, it was like, there was another one that the other day there was just a simple word, and the word was for the village council to conduct an investigation. And really, I mean, it ought to have been to commission or to, for an independent investigation. You don't conduct one on yourself. It's just it's illogical. It doesn't make any sense, right? But, so the word conduct versus the word commission or request or something is a big difference. And it's the same as that. It's like, advocacy is one thing, but when we're at government, I don't really see it as an advocacy, an act of advocacy.
Okay, so just to speed up the process, what word would you like to change it to?
I guess it would be to, gee, that's a good word. I haven't got it in front of me.
Recommend
Just look
an
over your shoulder to see what it
investigation.
says there. Okay, there, to advocate for an investigation. Yeah, you see, the thing was that there is information available from the ground penetrating radar that was done, and there was already a bunch of information that was put together. So I'm wondering if maybe to investigate or to test. See, the tests have kind of been done. Do you know what I mean? Some of the testing's been done. And I can't remember exactly what it was that I said, which was I was kind of hoping to compare it to what was on the owl, because I felt like it was a little bit of it's okay. Like it.
Have you read, I mean, the letter that was the follow-up out of this resolution?
No.
The letter
No, I didn't see it.
was drafted, and was that letter sent?
I said it was sent to LKFN.
To the chief?
I apologize if I didn't send it to council. I'll do that.
But in that letter, there is talk of, as you say, research into, because you say there was some testing already done, but to continue with the testing, research, and investigation of possible unidentified grave sites and things like that. It got into it a lot more, the letter. So, I mean, and that's just one, that doesn't mean that's the last thing we'll do. I think this is a flexible enough word that I think I know what you're saying, that certainly we have room to push for things in different ways.
Yeah, like, for instance, the responsibility is like okay, there you go, identifying. Yeah, that looks pretty good. That's like it got it covers quite a bit of ground there, and it references the resources available to conduct that work too, because that's what I think is important. I've been trying to understand the social ills in this community, and you know what, I can just almost feel sometimes, you know, the gravity of the, you know, there's something in the island that it evokes. I think behavior that wouldn't normally happen. Like I just, you know, I wish there was a way to improve the morale, you know, to improve to help people with, you know, sort out the addictions issues in order to, you know, that's what I think is all about, is about being able to, you know, even in a personal life, you know, you express grief, you express that in a good positive way, you know, not by tearing things down and burning things. No, just by looking, the honest examination, a good, you know, careful, thoughtful approach to it, and then we can set it free. The truth can set you free, and this is what I'm hoping will be able to happen. Right? Is that we'll be better off after an understanding of this place where we live, because there are a lot of myths. I grew up reading Hardy Boys series books. You know what I mean? I read all those books, and to me, this is just like a mystery that's just unsolved, you know, and those kind of loose ends, they're hard on the psyche, they're hard on imagination. You know, it forces you to, it allows you to imagine things that may not even be good for you, you know, that might not even be real. And that's where I don't want to, I want to avoid that by just, you know, go to the facts, we'll find out, we can learn, and then we can overcome it, we can get better from it. And gee, I hope we can, you know, we can get over that's something that's been troubling our community for a long time. This is questions, you know, in people's minds that nobody talks about. Nobody wants anything to talk about it. They want to forget about it. They don't want their kids to know about it, and they want to bury their head in the sand about it. And nobody wants to go back there. Nobody wants to go back to that time. But the thing is, though, is that in order for us to be free of it, so our kids don't have to do it, that's all it is. It's just about me doing it. Otherwise, my kids are going to be suffering from it, you know, in 20, 30 years from now still. So it's a hard thing, hell of a thing. And it's no damn good, but it's one of those things that we just, you know, it's like, it's just something that happens. It happened to us. It happened, you know, to fall into our awareness at this time.
Those mass graves, I was told by older people, they said it happened during the flu in 1931. There were so many deaths that they just had to bury them all in a big mass grave because there was too many people dying.
My dad said Mbé was buried over there without a mark on her grave too, and he doesn't know where she is buried. He's sad about that, you know.
Okay, so, I mean, we can't really change the words here because this exact wording is what is on the resolution, but certainly the intent, I think, maybe having read the letter, you see that this is, we're taking it liberally.
Okay, no, thanks for that. I appreciate that.
For the right things. So as long as we can keep the word, but serve the intent properly.
Okay, yeah, I'll go with that.
Okay.
That's all right. I just wanted to make sure that it was that it was being seriously considered, and I hadn't seen the letter, so thank you.
All right. So again, then the motion moved by Councillor Lafferty, seconded by Councillor Morrow, that Council approve the minutes of RM 11-2021 of June 7, 2021 as presented. A show of hands, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And Councillor Hassan, are you in favor of the minutes?
Yeah, yes.
And Deputy Mayor?
Yes.
Okay, 7 for, none against, motion's carried. And for the second meeting, the committee of the whole meeting of June 14th, I've got a motion moved by Councillor Lafferty, seconded by Councilor McPherson, that council approve the minutes of Cal 06-2021 of June 14, 2021 as presented, unless anyone has any amendments or changes. Does anyone? All right then, can I see a show of hands for that set of minutes? All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Councilor Hassan?
Yes.
And Deputy Mayor? Are you in
Yes.
favor? Okay, 7-4, none against. Motion's carried and those minutes are adopted. 8A, Mayor's Report. I really don't have one this week. SAO report, Mr. Corrigan, do you have any report?
A few things, Your Worship.
Okay,
We've ordered signs for Clee Avenue. This has come up, I'm not sure if Councillor Simpson's aware, but it's come up a number of times over the past few years, and it was approved by bylaw quite a long time ago to change 95th Avenue to Clee Avenue. I guess it got overlooked, so we've ordered those signs last week, and they should be going up on 95th Avenue this week or next week.
Which street is 95th?
It's
Going down.
goes up to William Michaud's.
Okay, yeah, right there, and then
Riverbank.
around past Arnold's and up the street. Okay,
Yeah,
Cool.
so that's going to be changed to Clee Avenue in the next week or two. We bought gifts for the 11 graduates this year. I left a couple on the council desk there right in front of you, you can see. We partnered with the Friendship Center, who had funding for IT and the band, and we were able to get these really nice machines for all the grads.
nice.
Yeah, so I think they were pretty happy about that. The mulching at the end of the island has started today. So hopefully over the next week or two, it'll start looking a lot nicer all the way down that road.
Good.
Let's see. There's a ball tournament August 6th to the 8th. And there's actually 12 teams registered already so far, which is a lot. So there's going to be a lot of visitors coming to Simpson for that weekend. Normally, the majority of them would stay at the campground. As it stands right now, the campground's not open, and the rec coordinator is trying to come up with a plan in case it doesn't open at all for the summer. And so he's suggesting, I guess, Tent City,
Right.
the fire department training ground area. So he's got a plan to have security hired, have it all organized. So if there's no objections from council, we'll move forward with having that space available for those campers that weekend. The letter was sent to LKFN from Mass Graves, like we discussed. I just forwarded that on to council in case anyone hasn't gotten it just now. This Wednesday, Minister Archie scheduled a meeting here in Fort Simpson with council and LKFN. That's at 7 p.m. this Wednesday in the curling rink. In the actual curling rink itself, not the curling lounge. So we've got a new concrete slab there now, so it'll be the first time it's been used for an event outside of winter.
And the presentation materials, is there going to be any of that? We keep getting visits from ministers, and I think some of the importance of those visits may be lost. And that was identified by Celine really well as she's been talking about that. And I think it's a really good idea because, why are they coming? Hey, what are they the minister of? You can keep up. They changed their portfolios like they changed their shorts. And then the other thing is what's it about?
If you'd like,
People don't just show up, and focus. There's usually a specific thing. So it'd be nice to be able to have that opportunity,
Yeah.
Otherwise we're at a disadvantage in our ability to properly represent our town.
I haven't got anything official from them, so if you'd like, I can email them and request some talking points or this discussion topics.
Yeah, if we could even establish a protocol, normally this is what I think Celine had alluded to, is a protocol that's been sort of lost in somewhere in the shuffle, but at the ministerial level. I mean, you know, those are the kind of things where you just don't go around winging it, do you? I mean, or is that what it is all about? It's just going into somewhere and just, yeah, here I am showing up, and then you go by. I mean, what good is that? You know, the importance of the opportunity gets lost in that. If we can be focused, like maybe we have something that we need to present to that minister. Do you know what I'm saying? How can we prepare for that? What we're advocating for to that minister, not just what they're showing up here to get out of us, so they can check off their consultation box or whatever.
I know coming out of the previous meeting, when the premier was here and deputy premier, issues around the health center and when will we be getting one, a new one was brought up. When will the Power Corp LNG be started off the island, and when will bridge study start? These were three items of interest to the Minister of Infrastructure. She may want to be able to just come back and that she's got Power Corp representation here in the community. They're doing a tour around. Right, I think this is part of a familiarization tour for her as well. So I don't know if there's any specific agenda, but
Just showing up.
listen to concerns and follow up on the previous meeting that we had.
I wonder if there are any other meetings. What other meetings are planned? You know, I mean, what other meetings are, what's going on? You know, I don't know, because I don't think that's just an innocuous, or there's just, you know, I know there's the intention behind everything. There's a lot of money that they spend on these meetings, and that's what I'm saying. If we can, let's, you know, if there's a way we can stick handle this so that they wind up coming out of the meeting helping us with what we want to do, how about let's try that? Could we do something like that? It's strategic action here. We got to just do something. Why not? Why just let them come and show up and they show their face here and they just sign off and check off? Yeah, I went to Simpson. Yeah, they check off. It'll, you know, it'll happy, and they go brag about it that way to Simpson. You know, and it's if it's lost, the opportunity's lost.
I mean, we can't. You know, you do get a certain amount of time to talk to the minister, and the meeting only lasts so long, I guess. So we could have councillors decide on doing a little research on different topics related to her portfolio. I do want to bring up the issue of the health center. It seems to have been lost in the shuffle since 2006. 15 years ago, we were promised by then Minister of Health Sandy Lee, Territorial Health Minister, that we would have a new health center within 5 years. Since then, we're talking 15 years ago, we don't even know where on the 20-year capital plan our renovated or new health center sits. At the time, we were promised a $30 million health center. That has to be a critical issue for the wellness of Fort Simpson. Now, we might count ourselves lucky that, you know, the health center actually was delayed, because now it looks like we should really be focused on our community plan and putting it off island. There could be other options. We could rezone some properties up there to make room for a new health center. I don't want to wait another 15 years for a health center that every other single community in the Northwest Territories, as far as I know, received a new health cabin, health center, or a new hospital. Out of 31 communities in the north? I can't think of another one that didn't get a serious upgrade in their health facilities. 33. In 2000 and I think it was 17, Toledo and Fort Simpson were both, maybe it was 2017, to both Toledo, then
Minister of Infrastructure
didn't have new upgrades, but Norman Yakalaya must have pushed hard, because they, in 2020, last year, completed their new health center, brand new health center. I've seen it. Looks really good.
Okay, so they were the infrastructure, Minister of Infrastructure you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, well, they
She
must have been issuing contracts for the LaPointe Hall, the Commission of the Northwest Territories has claimed jurisdiction and authority and control since 1921. And so that means that they were the ones paying the bills at LaPointe Hall and making the orders. So maybe that's where we start our investigation.
Right.
Yeah, it's them. And this is the whole thing. You're going to see there's not going to be any big support coming from them. I know what's going on here. That's what happened. That's why the whole thing is all hush hush, because they're still the service providers discriminating against us at the and trying to sterilize our families at the health center and here over in Yellowknife, because it's the same people doing the same thing. Trying to get rid of the native people here so they can bring in all their friends here and enjoy their inheritance of our ancestors. That's what's going on here. I'm telling you. It's all these administrations are all set up for it. This one, GNWT, they're all set up to design right for it. That's what they're doing here. That's what this is all about. That's what this is right here where we're sitting.
Let's get back to the agenda, please.
But we will have to come up with
Have a long day.
some kind of focus, right? If
Yeah.
everybody sort of says their own thing and it doesn't sound like it's backed up by everybody,
That's what I mean.
that's where the minister can say, okay, that's interesting. And
Yeah, that's a good unit. That's right. That's why maybe, is it reasonable to have a strategic
We can have a
meeting to try
meeting
to
on
get some,
Wednesday at noon.
achieve some outcomes, some objectives, to set some objectives and to try to achieve some outcomes. That's how organizing and preparing is done. In order, but make a good plan, go there, you're gonna get it done.
would councilors like to have a quick meeting at noon on Wednesday to go over the priority topics we want to talk about? So we can at least have a coordinated approach when we meet her at 7 that evening. Councilors? I think it's probably worth having a little discussion at that time,
Here?
Yes, I would agree to meet on Wednesday.
at noon. Because our meeting will be at 7 then, okay. All right, well, we'll do that, and that'll achieve some of what you're saying,
Yeah, that'll help.
okay?
Can-
Yes,
Can I just get an idea of how many we'll have for our noon meeting? So I can get lunch in?
I'll be there.
1,
Yeah, I'd like to do
2, 3, 4, 5.
No, I won't be.
Deputy Mayor?
Yes, but I'll have to call in. Thank you.
Okay, and Councillor Hassan? Councillor Hassan?
Yeah, I will let you know tomorrow because I just came to your mind this morning, so I'll let
Sure.
you know by
Okay.
tomorrow. Is that okay?
Okay,
For sure, yeah.
and whatever comes out of it, we'll do a little cheat sheet and be able to produce something for the councilors, so we follow some kind of targeted approach.
Just finish off.
Yep, go ahead.
Councillor Sibison had mentioned the old water act, that old water supply on the ski hill. So we've actually just this past week cut a trail to it. It was all very, very overgrown and pretty much impossible to get to. So we cut a trail to it. We're going to use that in a loop, a walking, hiking trail loop, and also we're going to now have a look and see is it still possible to get water from there or not.
Is it really producing quite a bit of water coming out like?
Right now, I can
People
show you a photo of it after, but there's a massive culvert coming straight up out of the ground.
They're just
And then there's a
gushing out.
pipe coming out, but there's no water coming out of it right now. So I don't know if it's
Valved off.
Well, or-
I don't know.
Spring comes in at the top of the hill. They used to have
And the rest of it has all been disconnected.
Oh.
But we're going to send someone in to have a look at it.
Pretty cool.
So we'll have more information on that available in the coming weeks. We changed, I'm not sure if everyone's noticed, but we changed our village emails since the flood. All of our emails used to be at vofs.ca and now they're at fortsimpson.com. So just a little bit easier, a little bit simpler. And all of our staff names now, it's first initial, last name at fortsimpson.com. So all the old email addresses still work. So if anyone's trying to get me at my old email, it'll still come to me, but we're making that change and gradually we'll have that change rolled out. I think that is, Tree 11 celebration started today. The village is The village rec center staff are putting on a lunch barbecue as part of the Tree 11 celebrations on Thursday, I believe. Yeah, Thursday. And we also have visitor information center staff set up a table for a few hours each day at down at the flats. And that's it for me. Motion.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. Kevin, you mentioned that mulching is starting at the end of the island.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy to hear that. I'm getting some feedback. Can you guys still hear me?
We
Yep.
can, yes.
Oh, okay. So, can you tell me the scope of that work that's being done?
I don't have the scope of work.
Okay. So in terms of finances, is this project eligible under the DAC policy?
This is work that's going to be considered, it's considered emergency cleanup work that will be billing back to the territorial government as part of the emergency recovery of emergency costs outside of the DAP program.
Oh, great. So what is that program called?
It's just it's not a program. It's the understanding, part of the understanding that the territorial government will cover all of the emergency response costs, and this will be included in part of those costs.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, and SAO Corrigan, is that the end of your report?
That's all I have today.
Okay, any last questions, councillors? No? All right, we'll go on to items under 9. And the first one, the tax sale. I've got a motion moved by Councillor Lafferty, seconded by Councillor Morrow, that the Village of Fort Simpson schedule a tax sale for 10 a.m. on September 2nd, 2021, and that the minimum auction price be set at 50% of the assessed value. Further, that the properties listed for sale be Lot 5-20, Plan 316, and Lot 5-6, Plan 316. So 2 lots. Open it for discussion. Any questions or comments? Yes, go ahead, Councillor Corrigan.
I see. Just a couple of points, Your Worship. Under the Property Assessment and Taxation Act, where we can run a tax sale, and the minimum auction price must be 50% of the assessed value. Now, if council wishes, they can change that number, but that's the minimum it be set at. And considering these properties have gone up for sale in the past and haven't sold, I'd suggest keeping it at the minimum to encourage them to sell. And that being said, there's been a couple of people who have expressed an interest in purchasing them, but we'll just have to wait and see how that goes. The date is the soonest we can run the auction. There's a few other steps legally have to happen before the auction takes place. So that's the soonest we can have the auction.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Kevin, are these 2 lots, could they now be considered in the flood zone?
No, I do not believe so. They're right at the 2 old Yanni lots right on Main Street. There's the old garage and that old yeah. It's a bit of an eyesore. It'd be very nice to get them cleaned up right on Main Street.
And there was a concern in one of our meetings last year that that area where the fuel was contaminated, is that still a status of that lot?
We don't know. There's been no testing done. If that's like legally right now, we don't have any test, do any drilling or testing. So I think that's, I think I would suggest that we go forward with the tax sale, and then if they don't sell, well, then we revisit that.
whole issue.
But as it stands right now, I've heard that they may be contaminated. I don't know if they are or not. And we don't have any data to say one way or another.
Is that 2 lots?
Wasn't there a fuel tank buried there still?
No,
Nope, it's under there now.
I've been told that that's been taken out.
saw that with my own eyes,
Yeah.
that's why I say that.
Yeah, I kind of remember, I thought there was something done. That's a good step, a good start.
Yeah.
At least they're not still in there or whatever.
If there is a possible contamination we're not allowed on the property to test, can we test off the property in case the contamination is larger than we think?
We could.
But the only question is, why would we?
Get rid of it.
I mean, that's the kind of thing you don't go looking for problems like that, I think. And it costs money. I mean, you could drill anywhere on the island for that matter. We used to put bunker C oil down on our streets to keep the dust down.
I remember that when I was a kid.
Played in it.
So,
My
well,
mom did not like it.
yes,
Oh,
Deputy
the
Mayor?
laundry must have been
Yeah,
bad,
I
eh?
just don't want to look at, like, we're violating some regulations, environmental regulations. And we didn't request the appropriate departments to review it and confirm it or not. I just wanted to be known that we did bring up this issue, and if Kevin feels it's okay that we should just try to sell it as is, well, hopefully there's no problems with that. Thank you.
Yeah, just on that.
Mayor,
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Hassan.
thank you. I believe we have a lawyer. I think it's not even going to be our problem that if there is anything on that property. I think we should just give the file to the lawyer who will be doing that. And I've never seen any bank or any organization that have a lien or a rate on a property and they sell it. They carry the problem of that property. We have property tax owed to the village, and that's why we are putting it on tax sale. Whatever happened after that, it's not going to be our responsibility. There is no any liability. Why we have a lawyer, right? Thank you.
That's
Okay.
correct. Yeah.
And we're not going to misrepresent the property. We're not making any claims one way or the other about the property. It's more or less buyer beware, as always with a property tax sale. Yes, Councillor Belfontaine?
I think too, if we do test and we discover there is a problem, then would we not be expected, like, why would you look for it and then say, oh, okay, now that it's there, we're not gonna do anything. So by testing, then all of a sudden, we are kind of committing that we're going to pay to fix it and at what cost, you know? So if there is a problem, if we think there's something there and we test it and we find it, we can't just say, we know it's there, we're not gonna do anything.
There are laws in place too, that knowingly failing to disclose property contamination prior to sale, selling a property is I believe it's illegal in Canada. But but that being said, there may be some past discussion in the corporate memory of this organization referring to that property, and if we could just at least do a simple, just an internal to try to figure out, what's the history here? Have we got, the history of the development permits? Can we see, some basic information that would be, at least responsible?
I'd like to point out that the tax sale process is not us selling a property. It's more facilitating a sale. Like we don't own the land. I've talked to the lawyer about this. We don't own it. We don't have any legal obligation. We're facilitating a sale with the purpose of reclaiming owed taxes. And so the current owner is the person responsible for that land.
Yeah, I wonder who that is. Like, is there any information? Because is there any more information that's available that before we start liquidating other people's assets without notifying them? Is there a person to notify? I know you said Yanni Properties,
Well, we
so I
shouldn't
don't know.
probably mention names without going in camera here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, apologies.
But the lawyer is taking care of that whole process.
Yeah.
Like, it gets followed
Yeah, if he says
through.
no.
We
then-
may, we may, yes,
Thank you, Kevin. At this just wanted to add that, this council, we're very environmentally minded, that, we should encourage any land transfers or sales to try to keep our properties contaminant free. So just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so back to the motion then, that we go ahead with the tax sale for the two properties on September 2nd. Can I see a show of hands in favor of the tax sale? 1, 2, 3, 4. For councillors here, abstain.
I'm just gonna abstain, yeah, because I don't know
Okay.
enough. I just don't
Okay,
know
that's
enough about
4 in
it.
favor, 1 abstention. Councillor Hassan
Yes.
and Deputy Mayor.
Abstain.
So 2 abstentions, 5-4, and we'll go ahead with that then. Next one, 9B, which is our updated capital plan. You have it in front of you in color for the two councillors on the phone. Did they get a copy of this?
It is actually in, I printed it off
It's-
because I thought it wasn't in the package,
is.
but it is in the
I
package.
have it
Okay,
here.
So I'm
and
wasting paper.
maybe if you just hit us with some of the changes or updates so that if they're having trouble looking at that on their phone or anything.
Yeah, there's very little change. We discussed this when finance manager Darrell White was here. Minor change to the emergency planning under EMO, wall tents, heaters, sleeping supplies, etc. We just upped that from 60 to 80,000. That's the only change since we've discussed this last.
Okay.
Okay.
In saying that, in hindsight, I might have put this after 9D, the flood response independent review, because that's something that probably should be taken into consideration as well. If we're going to pay a consultant to do an independent review, probably the best place to pull that money from is gas tax, which would be capitalized. But we can revisit that.
Okay.
As it stands, that's where we're at. Nothing much else has changed.
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree, Kevin. I think it's a little bit premature until you get your expenses sorted out for that flooding, because there might be more things that we're not too sure of that may fall into our capital plan. Thank you.
So should we table this motion? I've got a motion moved by Councillor Lafferty, seconded by Councillor McPherson, that council approve the updated 5-year capital plan. Did any councillors want to make a motion to table? Is that
No.
Deputy Mayor, or we're gonna vote on this?
We can vote on it. We
Okay,
always change it later.
all right. Then can I see a show of hands to update the capital plan as it sits right now? 1, 2, 3, 4. Councillor Siverton?
There was just one other thing that I was noticing. There's a line item that says mulcher, auger, forks, attachments for skid steer, and it says $5,000, but I'm pretty sure that it's gonna cost a lot more than $5,000 for those items. So I don't know how, I know what they cost, right?
Yeah.
Just the forks is $5,000, or the other one's $5,000, and then the other one's $25,000.
Yeah, so that was just an edit that was, I guess we didn't quite finish editing the title, because what we ended up going with in the end was, we were looking at all those options. What we ended up going with in the end was just the forks, and that's all. And
Okay,
actually,
yeah,
that's actually been spent already.
There
Which
you go.
spot there?
Okay. Sorry about interrupting the
No.
vote there, but I just wanted, it was,
I'm impressed you caught that.
Mhm.
So with that then,
Yep.
Okay, we got 5 in favor here, and Councillor Hassan, are you in favor?
Yes.
And Deputy Mayor?
No,
Okay, one, is that an against or an abstain?
again.
Okay, so 6-4, 1 against, motion's carried. So we might be looking at this again soon anyway, but for now it's updated. 9C, which is protective services, I have a motion moved by Councillor McPherson, seconded by Councillor Bellefontaine, that bylaw 2021-003, a bylaw to amend the emergency response and protective services bylaw be read a third time and passed. And SAO Corrigan, did you want to just remind everybody what that was concerning?
Mayor, I think it's not that one. I
Sure.
think it's the HR. We went to the HR.
Oh, yeah,
So there's no motion to go with this.
No,
okay.
it's, the HR is 9C.
Oh, right, right. I was looking at something else. So you're right. This one is maybe just an update from SAO Corrigan.
Yeah, so we have the third reading, later this meeting, we have the third reading to amend the fees for our emergency response and protective services bylaw. And with that fee increase, it'll bring in enough revenue to pay for this new position. I just wanted to make sure that council, I know that's come up in the past. I don't know if we've had a good conversation about it recently or if that's needed, but I just wanted to make sure that council are happy for us to proceed with the hiring process and to get started. We don't need a resolution. If you'd like to do a resolution, that's fine, but we can proceed without a resolution. I included a draft job description in the council package to give you an idea. We've just tried to incorporate a little bit more to include areas in the organization where we feel we're lacking. So, you know, things like managing a safety program for the village is something that you know, there's been times where we've been lacking there, and it would be good to have one person whose responsibility it is to keep that under control. Also, emergency and disaster services planning. So that person would be, you know, in charge of, you know, figuring out a better monitoring system for water levels for spring flooding, making sure our plan is up to date, and things that take pressure off the SAO and other staff members. And then obviously the fire chief. Ambulance calls have been going up and up and up. Have been skyrocketing the last couple of years, and with our current fire chief retiring soon, it's going to be very difficult, if not impossible, to get someone to fill his shoes without a paid position.
Are we advertising Canada-wide or just in the territories?
To be honest, I hadn't quite thought it through, but now that you say it, my thoughts would be to advertise in the territories first, see what comes in.
Yeah.
And then if needs be, we'll go Canada-wide.
Because sometimes you go Canada-wide, you get weird people.
Well, our intention as well would be to have this as a non-unionized management position. So the pay would be flexible there. If it's a unionized position, the pay would be fixed, and the union would have to agree with that. But if it's a management position outside of the union, then it could be dependent on experience, qualifications.
Okay, so that's a little advanced information related to the item when we do get to it, which is 12B, which is the passage for the third reading of our actual emergency response and protective services bylaw. You know, the reason we're raising the rates is so we can hire this protective services fire chief position. All right, if there's no other questions.
Kevin, on the draft job description, I noticed that the requirement says an MF or something fire inspector. Does this mean this person that we're going to hire has to be qualified to inspect fires?
These qualifications, I'm not an expert in this, and I don't understand all of these qualifications personally. This came primarily from Hay River, who's got a similar position, and also in discussions with our current fire chief. So for specific information with those qualifications, if you had any specific questions, I'd have to get back to you later about those.
Yeah, I think we probably have to check MACA's fire chief too, right?
Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
So also with this position, we did talk about a flood recovery plan. Would that not be in this position too?
Flood recovery plan. Well, part of the position would be disaster management and flood
Yes,
prepar.
I read that, thank you.
Yeah.
But the question was, are we gonna consider a flood recovery plan on it? Thanks.
I think that right now, no. If and when this person is hired, then that is something that they may decide this is necessary and needs to be done. But that would be down to the person once it's, and council, if that's something that they want to push, that'd be fine too.
Yeah, well, when a person's hired, they don't usually say what they want to do and what they don't want to do. It's up to what we as council members think we need.
Can I,
But we should maybe revisit that and look at it seriously. So it would be nice. I'll look at it really closely and I'll send you my questions. Kevin, thank you.
Councilor McPherson had a question there, comment.
Celine, can you elaborate on flood recovery plan? Like what kind of role you see this person following? When you say flood recovery plan?
Okay, well, my understanding of the flood recovery plan is that immediately after a flood, you access all the resources and you have a community plan and you take all the necessary steps to mitigate any more future risks for floods. So I don't know how you guys understand it. Maybe if not, then I don't know. Maybe I'm talking out of my whatever. But those things go hand in hand. Alberta's municipalities have that. BC municipalities have that. So I think maybe it's something we should seriously consider, because when I did mention at the meeting and I asked Sean about our recovery plan, he said we didn't have one. NACA does, but NACA doesn't live in Simpson. We live here. So I don't know how else you guys understand it, but that's my understanding. Thank you.
In my mind, I think a flood recovery plan is ourselves, the government, and various other agencies working together to work out our recovery plan. I don't think it'd be the fire marshal's specific responsibility. I can see him working diligently on our EMO and making sure that we're up to snuff and we know exactly what we're supposed to do should a flood could happen again, and make sure that we're all safe and a little more organized. But I can't see him having the responsibility of doing a recovery plan independently of other government.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you said that, because when we go on to our next topic of Red Cross, they're the people that are expert at these disasters. And if we do talk about a recovery plan, they're the experts on it too.
Yes.
And that's local governments.
Mm-hmm.
So just putting our hands into MACA is something you guys really need to consider. But my personal lean on this is that we need to develop our own flood recovery plan. It's our community. And we need input from our people on this. And so I don't know if everybody doesn't like it, that's fine. Everybody around the table should say so. But I just wanted to mention that we need to talk about a recovery plan. Thanks.
Okay. All right.
Your worship,
Yes, go
I
ahead.
just want to make sure if I can just get consensus that council's happy for administration to proceed with this.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
When you say you want to proceed with this, Kevin, could you tell me what you mean?
Start the hiring process.
Well, I still have issues with the job description, but,
But
there
the,
has, what steps do we need to take to finalize, job descriptions? Is it, can you explain that process to me, please, Kevin? Thank you.
yeah, I'll be sharing this. We don't need council's approval for a job description, but in saying that, I'm happy to get feedback from any councillors who would like to give feedback. Ultimately, I'll share this job description with various experts, our current fire marshal, our current fire chief, our operations manager, MACA's fire marshal, and I'll get as many opinions as I can, and get as much feedback as I can, and make changes where needs be, and then we'll put it out for we'll post a position.
Okay,
Okay, so Kevin, if we'll do that and later on it says that discussions come around, we finalize our discussion and say, yes, they should be involved with the flood recovery plan, that would have to amend the job description. Would that be possible? Would you have that ability to do that, right, Kevin?
Yeah, now one thing that you normally see in most job descriptions is a line saying something to the effect of, and any other duties, deemed necessary or to fit that position. So normally there's some flexibility there. There is, in saying that, we can put the job out for to post, and we can start the hiring process. We can do interviews, and right up until we're ready to hire that individual. Throughout that whole time, the job description can still be edited. And I don't think we're talking about any major changes here. I think it would just be small edits.
yeah.
I'm not sure, maybe we should have an HR committee meeting, but I do have one more question. Is there a reason why we couldn't ask for this position to be a trainee position for any of our residents?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that it's quite possible that it may turn into a trainee position.
So it means we still have to hire somebody with the qualifications to train this person. So this position could be advertised as a term position.
I'll put it. I intend to put it out to competition, as is, and see what we get back. And if we get some qualified people, then so be it. And if not, if it needs to be a trainee position, we'll come up with a plan and we'll move forward with that.
Okay, so you're not considering a training position if you hire somebody.
Well, I think it would just depend on who applies. So if someone applies and they're not qualified, well, then we'll look at that on a case-by-case basis. If someone applies, it'll also depend on where the deficiencies lie. And so we'll have that discussion with our current fire chief, and we'll come up with some kind of training plan if needs be.
Well, there is a definite training plan in the job description in the draft one, which is really good. Okay, so you're telling me that you're gonna go ahead with this, and if you hire somebody, that's it, and that we may not be looking at a training position for any citizen at Fort Simpson.
No. If I could just interject, Deputy Mayor, there was never any discussion about that. You're just bringing it up only now, right? Yeah, but he's only following the directions that he was given. It's sort of unfair to kind of ask these questions at the last minute, I think.
Okay, well, I just wanted to discuss that and bring it up.
Okay.
But if the decision's already been made, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, so with that information, we've got 10 committee minutes and recommendations. We don't have any recommendations arising out of committees. 11 new business. We have the National Drowning Prevention Week proclamation on July 18 to 24. And Well, we don't necessarily need a council resolution to go with that, do we? We could,
I think it's more symbolic that they requested a resolution.
okay, Deputy Mayor?
No, yeah, are we just, are we omitting, 9D?
Okay, yeah, no, it's a good
Oh,
point.
yeah.
9D, flood response independent review, SAO Corrigan, any updates on that?
I contacted a couple of companies who deal with flood management, flood response, flood emergency management, emergency planning, emergency response, and asked that question if they could, if that's something that they would do for us. And I haven't yet received a response. I thought it might be an idea to bring this back to council for a little bit of discussion to try and get an idea of, basically what exactly council want from this review. So what exactly, what would the scope of work be? There's, when you talk, independent review could mean many different things. It could be as simple as asking someone to rate our response out of 10 and saying, okay, there's our independent review. Obviously, that's not what council want. So some feedback. I listed a few questions that went into your council package. One about what would the actual scope of work be? How would we define independence? So is this, do we want, we don't want staff, we don't want government? Is this something, basically how would you define independent? What kind of procurement process you'd like us to use? As it stands right now, we don't have any outside funding for this. Typically, you pay to pay a consultant to do any kind of study like this. You're talking tens of thousands minimum, So it could come out of gas tax, so it's something that we could work into our capital plan. But the capital plan is very tight this year. We're getting a lot of projects done. So I just, that's something to be kept in mind is that the chances of us getting funding for this right now are slim. It's something I think we'll have to pay for ourselves. And then what is the timeline? Do you want this done next week, next month, next year? When do you expect to have this work done? Thank you.
First, Councillor Lafferty.
I was just wondering if maybe we could ask NOAA to do a review for us. Because they were right there on the scene a lot of the time. And they did have a lot of input into the flood and the health, because they were right there in the yard, the health tent and everything. So maybe they'd be able to help with a review.
I'm confused.
Yes, Councillor Hassan, then Councillor McPherson. I think she had her hand up as well.
Thank you. On your report, which is a review report, the first part of it, that exactly answer all the questions we are asking, which is all these points that you put on the brief of the EMO. I'll tell you, I'm sorry, NOAA cannot do that for one reason. This is a very specific scientific request that it comes out when you ask an auditor to audit your papers, your paperwork. You bring all your paperwork, and the auditor will go and audit your money, how you spend it, and what's your profit or what's your deficit in your budget. How do we update? I will give you some points. How do we update our emergency plan? And kind of emergency plan we have right now? It's just a document full of names. Who is, like, those are questions. Those are leading questions. Who are the territorial EMO and what is their role? What are our local municipal EMO and what is their role? Why are we going to hide information from the public, and how we deal with emergencies generally? And what is the role of the mayor, the SAO, the council, what was the response? It's not blaming people. It's just we bring what happened and we put a standard that we have to see how we did and what's the best way of it in the future. How we receive the feedback, how the involvement of the public in getting the information. I'm going to give you another example. I thought you remember last meeting, one of the meetings when we had ENR rep, we requested the ENR representatives to tell us why ENR, for example, did not bring their camp when we have a problem of sheltering our people out of the island. What happened? They were there. The minister was there. ENR staff were there. But if you ask them, they will tell you, "Oh, no one asked us." Why do you ask? Like, what's the term of reference? That's the word that we can use. On what is the role? What's those people's role in our local EMO, and how are they going to help our situation in any emergency? Yesterday, when I was crossing the town there, the ferry stopped working for 5, 6, 7 hours, I believe, and we never thought about these things. All these are going to be factors on our emergency. It's not only flood. I'm talking about flood. I'm talking about fires. When we have a review for our plan, it depends on what we have and how are we going to do better. Usually, when I want it to be like this. In any emergency, people always deal with cycles. It's a cycle. It's prevention, mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery, which we are right now in from the floods. But we are in a recovery phase from the flood, and we are in a preparedness to response based on the fire. So you see, we have always a cycle which is always going to be interconnected. So when we ask for the review, a review of an independent scientific body, there are so many consultants even in the NWT here who can do that. They can tell you they can do that. Even the Red Cross can help us on that, on what we have. How did we do in that flood, and what are we doing in the fire season right now? This is how we're going to come up with a better way of dealing with the future in the town, in our town there. There are a lot of things that why people have to wait for 9 days to take shower or 10 days to take shower. Like those kind of things, they're going to come very clear. They will come with a guideline on when it comes to the flood. This is your protocol, or this is your way of process of dealing with this disaster. When it comes to fire, this is your way of dealing with this disaster. How we dealt with it, they will analyze the way we dealt with it and bring us back a feedback that will help us in the future. I can tell you, none of you guys here, the mayor or the SAO or anyone knows who is the territorial EMO. No one knows. I don't think anyone knows. So these are I think this issue can be. I would like it to be tabled until we really discuss it and see what we can come up with, what our guidelines will be, and we can request any independent business. Is definitely going to be a business consultant to come and do it, and it's not going to be difficult. And for the money the SAO mentioned, you have the gas tax. You pay from the gas tax.
Councillor McPherson, did you have?
Yeah, I probably wasn't involved in this discussion with the recovery. And anyways, just reading this and reading that the comments on the debrief, when you say an independent consultant to review, You know, it's almost saying, okay, we want to bring somebody in to review our EMO plan, the flood area, to say, how did we do with it? Where did we mess up? Communication, infrastructure, movement of people, that sort of stuff, food preparation, so
We already know that.
yeah. And so I think all we're requesting here is, let's look at our EMO plan with a professional, such as Red Cross or someone else, Red Cross working with somebody else, to say, yeah, you guys, here's your EMO plan. This is what you did not do right. This is where you need improvement. And that's the way I look at it, because if you're looking for, put it out for, for RFP and that sort of stuff, like, it's just, I don't know.
You'll never have the perfect plan.
Yeah.
No matter how much we plan. There were elders in town that did not want to go. There was a lot of families that would not leave, and we knew all this. Sometimes they'd stop by, some of them, and for coffee or something, and, a bite to eat, but they'd go back to the island. They'd go back. There was quite a few people. How many, I don't know, but there was quite a few people that stayed on the island. They would not leave.
Yeah.
And if the Mackenzie would have come right away, that ice would have all been pushed onto the island, and it would have been much worse. So I think the way things went, I think it was pretty good, pretty well planned. You can't really plan for something like this. There's always going to be issues, It's different every time, A flood is never, you can plan all you want, but there's always going to be things happening.
Councillor Siviston.
I was just going to say that the Red Cross is my choice for dealing with this, because they had the confidence of the chief right away. The chief invited them here, so there's no other, it's not like we have a whole bunch of choices of let's pick, who was here, and then we'll pick up. No, they were here. They, at the earliest of any other independent organization. So they already sort of fit in some of the criteria of what you would look for to get an independent, or to get that kind of glimpse, because they sort of had it. I saw that they were very. That's what I noticed about their tack, was that they were playing the observer's role, and that they were doing, and that's the kind of role that that we need somebody to play in this situation. So, and we don't have to look far. They're already here. They already offer. There's an MOU on the table. We can probably get that. We can probably keep that get that going without too much trouble.
It's probably going to be very expensive too, and I don't know if we can afford it.
Mayor?
I'd like to see the number.
Councillor Hassan.
We commit
I agree with the council.
That's right. That's right.
Both might be the best, our best choice. And I'll tell you guys something. I don't want next year to be. We didn't do good. We were just very lucky. I have to be honest with you. A councillor and the deputy mayor asked the Health and Social Service what is their plan to evacuate the elders and the long-term clients, the long-term residents, and the long-term residents. There was no answer. No one knows. No one knew anything. So it just happened that we just learn as we go. So that's what happened. We sent people to Fort Smith. They stayed in an arena. Luckily, Fort Smith people helped them, and thanks to Fort Smith mayor and community. For how long are we going to be just crying wolf? So next time it's not going to be the same. We have to be prepared. We have to be solid. We have to be strong. I really like the idea of involving the Red Cross in this issue, because they've been dealing with disasters all their life, and they might come with a better review for what happened. Our emergency, we did not have anything telling us that when people evacuate the island, they're going to be on the top of the hill or out of the island. How they're going to live, where they're going to stay, how are we going to help them, how are we going to support them? No one knows. Honestly, we just found ourselves in a situation that we are intense. These kind of things, when we plan it,
Sorry,
I'm not planning.
Mark, there's some other discussion going on. I'm losing.
Go ahead, Councilor Hassan.
Okay, that's what I want to say.
Okay. Well, the Red Cross, we may be having more involvement with them, and certainly I think we should try to design the scope of the project, narrow that down a bit if we're going to discuss it with them, so they know exactly what we're looking for. I mean, we have a lot of ideas floated out there, and we can certainly we should be open to recommendations on how to make our plan better. That's always something we can look to do. I think that's what the Red Cross is kind of set up to do, and they won't come to judge us, but they'll come to improve what we do, and that's a good starting point.
And what was that cost they were wanting to charge?
We were going to get to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, just so that people know it's not going to be free, but let's move on to item 10 here, committee minutes and recommendations, which there aren't any. Again, the National Drowning Prevention Week proclamation. Do we need a motion to
There's a
declare that,
motion there.
or it's just kind of an information?
You don't have the motion?
No. No, I don't
There
have
is,
that one.
there is a,
Oh, there
Oh,
it is.
there it is.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. All right, so we do, maybe, could I get a mover and a seconder for that one?
I will. Somebody, 1 second.
Okay, a motion moved by Councilor McPherson, seconded by Councilor Morrow, to support National Drowning Prevention Week through a proclamation stating that whereas the mission of the Life Saving Society of Canada is to prevent drowning throughout this great country, and even one drowning in the Northwest Territories is too many. And whereas most drownings are preventable in a water smart community and only through water smart education and a healthy respect for the potential danger that any body of water may present, can we genuinely enjoy the beauty and recreation opportunities offered by these bodies of water. And whereas the Life Saving Society urges Canadians and residents of the village of Fort Simpson to supervise children who are in and around water to refrain from drinking alcoholic beverages while participating in aquatic activities, and to always wear a life jacket when boating. And whereas the Life Saving Society of Canada has declared July 18th to the 24th of 2021 National Drowning Prevention Week to focus on the drowning problem and the hundreds of lives that could be saved this year. Therefore, be it resolved that the Village of Fort Simpson Council do hereby proclaim July 18 to 24 of 2021 National Drowning Prevention Week in Fort Simpson, Northwest Territories, and do commend its thoughtful recognition to all citizens of our community. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, then all those in favor of that resolution? I've got 5 here. Councillor Hassan
Yes.
and Deputy Mayor.
Yes.
Okay, 7 in favor, none against. So we'll declare that Drowning Prevention Week in Fort Simpson. Items under 12. This is the one I was reading before, but mistakenly read early. It's the bylaw 2021-003.
oh, you're missing
Oh,
11B.
no, I missed a different one. The one I suggested, which is the Red Cross proposal to come to Fort Simpson to assist in a number of ways for a period of 10 days. I think primarily to come in to help people to fill out their disaster assistance forms, to support them, the physical and mental well-being, to connect with people, give them support in many ways. But one of the issues that may be, that some people may be having difficulty in the village is actually addressing the disaster assistance forms. People not only their belongings, people have trouble coping with just listing all of the items that they lost and properly quantifying their loss. The Red Cross would come in and case by case, meet with people, ask all the probing questions, get all the answers, find out a lot of things about their situation, and try to apply for all the monies available under the disaster assistance policy for them, making it as easy as possible. That was the request made by myself to them to get a sort of an idea of what that would cost to come back to the community to deliver that type of service. And you do have a copy of the proposal. I'm just cutting very much to the very bare bones basic, but
That the drowning prevention?
This is what-
yeah, this is
Okay,
what
yeah,
the Red
yeah.
Cross proposal is, to come to Fort Simpson for a period of 10 days with three staff members. Now, they've got overhead. They also have their staff costs and travel costs, insurance costs, and what have you. Nothing is cheap. This would cost $73,920 for a period of 10 days to do this. I don't know if that's negotiable or not, but that's the price. I think if we were to do this or support that this activity happen, work with MACA to see if we could get the financial support to assist to bring the Red Cross in. In most provinces, the Red Cross is supported by the provincial government. I see actually in the Yukon government is bringing in the Red Cross to deal with the COVID situation right now. They're not just utilizing the health workers, they're bringing in the Red Cross. So in a similar way, I think if we like what the Red Cross is proposing, they can do for us. It would give us a chance to go over some of our questions regarding a review as well. Do a little bit of
And
that as well.
That would be over and above
Yeah,
73,000.
maybe.
Here's something that's coming up is this business of people having trouble filling out forms, these like GNWT, right, forms,
Right.
okay? And then having to defer that responsibility of assisting those victims from even helping them, assisting them with with helping them fill out the forms. We have to hire an independent, I'll tell you what, okay? I don't really see that being the role of the Red Cross, coming in to help people fill out government forms. I know that they can do that, right? But I think, wouldn't it be the government, expert who made the forms and who actually are responsible for delivering those programs? What's this no service thing here? Do we have to live in Yellowknife to get any help? What's happening? And I don't understand this. And here's the other thing too, is these guys are here, we're in need of specific objectives that we're being requested by council for help with the Red Cross. And then all of a sudden now we're asking them for doing what I consider to be erroneous tasks, which is helping people fill out forms and that to try to get the money, to get the money flowing for them as fast as possible. I can see that, I could see that being a function of a government envoy of some sort, to assist this poor flood-stricken community. Instead, what do we get? We get a visit with no description, no nothing from from bleary-eyed ministers who could really not producing really no assistance at all, just really taxing our attention for the sake of their own publicity and their own well-being. And so this is where I'm trying to explain that this is not a situation where we can afford to, if the government is so remiss that they have left people out in the cold now in this flood process because their forms are dense, are hard to understand, impossible to fill out, there's no support, right? There's actually no officer there to help them fill out their forms. There's just zero support like that. Well, why put that on somebody else? Let's go to those guys and say, look, this is not okay. Throwing a bunch of paperwork and sending a bunch of emails to a bunch of flood victims who lost their internet is not going to help. Who can't list their thing. What's the Red Cross going to do that for? I don't think it's appropriate. It's not what they do. It's like this. You got to consider their forte and play to their strengths. If we're going to pay this money, why ever we get them to help us do administration? Why? We need an emergency plan, right? We've already identified our needs, and we've just been talking about how specific our needs are. The specific audit to the things that are these guys are, and maybe this is what it is. Maybe this dancing around because this investigation may be undesirable for some people. Maybe the investigation is what's being avoided here, and this is an avoidance of the actual investigation that is about to take place because of the in order to steer them and handle them around the central question, which led to that person dying. I had to explain. I tell you what, I didn't know about this, but somebody told me, and they were mad, and I said, "Wow, They said, Randy, you ought to be furious about what took place because the person, what I was told was that the person got cold in a tent, wound up in somebody's van over to the medical center where they threw her out and said, you're drinking and you have to go because you're drinking. So to get out of here, you're not allowed in here because they mistook the signs of hypothermia for intoxication and sent her out and she died. And this is what happened. So this is what I'm explaining right now is I don't want to, can we somehow just, let's cut to the chase here. And if the Red Cross is going to come here, it's because they've got a certain expertise. It's not filling out paperwork for flood victims. Can we ask the government to do that? Do we have to pay the government extra money? Maybe we can say, please, can you raise our taxes? So that we can get some extra services? Do we have to beg them to do it? Maybe we need to beg them for some extra services to help us fill out these papers, because it's not their job. Why should those people be able to send horrible paperwork that's too impossible for anybody to fill out, and then we have to hire an outside agency for $75,000 to try to help those people? Come on. And meanwhile, Buddy's up there sweeping and, with a minister's budget and all that, running around sweeping and doing stuff like that. Give me a break. Can we cut that crap out?
The premier said they're broke.
Well,
Premier said their government's
Could we
broke.
do
and I understand why. Because they deserve to be broke. Because they blew all their money on a bunch of useless crap. And this is what I'm trying to say is that's not my problem. And now they're trying to put it on us. Now they're saying they had too many charters to too many communities for too many meaningless meetings without any agendas, right? That were ineffective, that led to no concrete decision of any kind. They're just a little schmooze fest and then they check it off on their box of trips they did or whatever. It's approaching the point now where can we actually literally afford to live like this? Can our community afford this? To be stuck to be in this quandary? But really, how is this going to play out in the long term? I'm doing my own emergency assessment. I'm doing my own scene management, my own emergency scene survey, and my own emergency management protocol that I have inside me that I know when something's not right. And that's what I'm trying to say is when I see stuff like this floating around, it makes me wonder: is that what's the problem here? What are we dancing around? Because let's get these guys in here to do their help us with our emergency plan. That's what they're good at, not filling out government forms. And I don't know, I was never asked, right? You know what I mean? Nobody asked. Now, so here I am. So here we are now. Is it better to do it like that? Is it better just to ignore all the counselors, have your guys here, tour them around, show them all, get them to try to do whatever you want, figure out how is this going to work, and then what? And then now have to listen to me going, this is freaking ridiculous. Why not just tell me this last week and I can go and talk to those guys and I sort it out? How about that? And I wind up getting you something. You want something? Maybe you're just asking the wrong, maybe you're trying to apply the same approach to a problem where you can't do that. So that's where we're starting to assign responsibility from other government agencies where they're dropping the ball, and now we're going to try to pay and try to get them to pay to do their job.
Well, they do it in every other province. They actually use them as an extra resource because they know they don't have some of the skills and abilities that Red Cross has as an international humanitarian aid and connecting to people one-on-one. Like they do this, it is standard procedure. They do help people fill out the forms.
I want to see the audit.
I can tell you, I've seen the forms And I look at them and they're not as clear cut as you might think. And there's a lot of supporting materials and information that they want. It's just enough, Randy, to make it kind of a roadblock for a lot of people, especially if they didn't lose thousands and thousands. But in this community, I think there's hundreds of people.
Okay, so can write a letter to the MLA?
But what are they going to do?
Oh, probably nothing, because that's the way that goes.
We
But
know
Okay,
if
let's
the Red
get
Cross
back
is
to the
hired
issue.
by the GNWT, they would at least assist and probably we'd have a wider reach and we get more of those forms filled, which does help each resident, at least financially, because I think if you looked at how
Why not
many
just
people,
split up the 73,000 and give it to those poor people?
who's to say that's the only 73,000 we'll be getting? I mean, that's peanuts. As you know, that in the scope of government delivery for services, that's peanuts. I do not see any advertisements of what the disaster assistance policy can get you, or actually what is. If you want to read the entire disaster assistance policy, you may be able to glean through the ifs, ands, and buts what you could potentially apply for, but nobody will sit there and assist you
Not even the MLA.
to claim for things which they may not even know. I mean, at least you've got the Red Cross has filled these forms out across Canada for people. The programs are not that dissimilar between, it's one federally funded program across Canada. I've asked the question myself, Randy, do people here get to apply for food lost in their fridges and freezers because of the power going out during the disaster? I've been told, well, that depends. Well, if it was a lot of food, maybe. I mean, if we don't get help with this, a lot of people are just going to walk away with losses all over the place. They'll think, well, maybe I can't apply for this, or you know what? Now it's just too much trouble for me to apply. It's been too much time. I look at the form, and they want pictures, and they want this, and they want my income tax, and I don't know how to get on the CRA website because I don't have a computer. And pretty soon the government walks away with very few applications having actually been filled out. They can say truthfully, they came to the community, had navigators here. They were available, which is usually what the government's threshold of help is. They're available. But you have to do all the work. You have to go there, pick up the forms, go home, and then fill them in and gather the information. I've never been to a government office where they help you fill out a form. I've never been to an actual government office that does that because there's certain things they just cannot do, and that's one of them. They don't act as advocates. They act as program deliverers, and that's about the end of it. They're stuck to the policy, and that's the way I look at it. Yeah.
Did you guys look at the email that was sent from Laura Guru regarding the two policies?
Yeah, the advance.
And they're saying that for the emergency, like there's a deadline of July 31st.
For the advance, yeah.
For the advance, and then for the so I think rather than sit here and argue all night, like let's find out exactly. Like I haven't looked at the applications. If people are having problems with some of if any of the First Nations are, like, we're willing to go and help them. I think we're smart enough that we can read through the.
All right.
And if you want to bring the Red Cross in to do an assessment on our EMO, I can see that, but not for them to go around and fill out that applications. It just doesn't.
Waste of money.
Of whose money though?
Well,
Won't be ours.
Well, who's gonna pay?
The territorial government's going to pay because what it is we have no local navigators here. We've got two people that are coming in from Yellowknife. They only come in when there's already forms filled out, and then they go and they kind of talk to the people about what's on the form and has this been assessed? Has somebody visited your house? I think honestly the government here only expects disaster assistance forms to come from people who actually had water in their house. But there's many other applications that need to come in. We fought for people who self-evacuated to be able to claim back some of their travel costs. That is now happening. But you won't hear the territorial government go out and advertise that. They just don't do it. We got that. I think we'll get a recognition that with the power going off, which when the power goes off in a whole community, that's a disaster. It's actually not, it's connected to the flood, but it's its own disaster. It caused damages like loss of food in your home, change out your fridge and that. You didn't have to have water damage. But there's a confusion here as to what you can actually apply for and what you can't. And unless you've got advocates, I could do it. But can I go around and see the 150 people in this community that should be applying? Because they've only got 30 forms so far, and they more or less asked me, well, Sean, what do you need Red Cross for? We already got half the applications in. That's what they said. And so if you want to leave your residents in the community high and dry, because once you stick a 6-page application form in front of them and tell them you also need this, 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 and this, and if they don't have computers or they don't have the ability to be writing up documentation, stories to go with it, I think you'll just
But, I can still see, like, you say 150, we have the ability now to have 200 people within the facility. We could put out an ad, say, okay, if you want to fill out this application, come to the rec center. We'll have staff there to work through
Yeah.
through the
That's
application
practical.
with you, because this program is
But are
going to
we
end.
knowledgeable?
Well, it
You
just,
fill out the forms,
we
probably.
can have some experts, one Red Cross person maybe, or, let's look at the forms. That's like, making it sound like we don't know how to read or follow instructions here. So
Yeah.
I'd rather have, let's take a kick at it first before we say, okay, now, now we don't know what we're doing, because
Because that will
it's
persist.
embarrassing for me.
Yeah, that'll persist, right?
Sean,
Yeah.
I don't know why we're doing this, but obviously the Minister of MACA is failing our flood victims, and we don't need to bang our heads against the wall because of this. We need to let the Minister of MACA know, and the Premier, that this is not working. And we're getting too much concerns from the flood victims with the lack of support. They need to step up their staff to come in and assist our people. And that they need to extend that assistance, that advance assistance from July 31st. They need to extend it till August or September.
Yeah.
Because it's only 2 months after that, then it's December when everything is closed. They need to step up their staff and bring them to town and help each person. Instead of us talking about Red Cross, Red Cross could help, I guess, but it's time to send a message to the minister that he has to come up with something better. He's failing us.
I agree.
Thank you.
Okay. Councilor Bellefontaine.
I know some of the communities have government service workers that will help with any types of forms, but because Fort Simpson, we have the offices here and there are people for each department. So we don't really have a government service worker. But I think if we were to say to the government, here's what we need, and you've set a deadline of the 31st, so we're going to need something now. Do you want to provide something for us, or do you want to pay for the Red Cross? Whatever. I know there's a lot of people. I mean, I deal with people daily that have difficulty with forms. And I think, especially knowing that you could do all that work and go running around and get all this, go get your NOA and go get this stuff. And then they say, sorry, you don't qualify. Or they tried it, like you said, with the food or the expenses for traveling out of town. People will just feel like, what if I do all this work and spend all this time and get nothing? So I do think we need to support people somehow. But I think we could even just say to the government, do you have something that you can provide right away, staff that will come here and help? Or should we go ahead and do this? And then they can pay us back. The other thing with the Red Cross, if they're coming for this and it's paid for by the GNWT, then I think it doesn't hurt to have the help if we can get it, and it's not going to cost taxpayers a bunch of money. If it's for our planning, then is that something we could probably do over the phone? They can do it remotely because they've been here, they've seen things, they've talked to a lot of these people here, they've been here. I don't know how long they were here, but they were here quite a while. They met with a lot of people. So maybe they could even, for assisting with this other planning, they could maybe do that remotely. Or if the government's going to pay to bring them, then maybe we could tie it all together to make it more worthwhile, more bang for a buck. But yeah, I think something has to happen, and we probably should look at getting them to, like you guys had said, push off that deadline, because it seems like you've got a month, but really we're 3 weeks.
It's not even a month.
And if we were to get people to come in, by the time the people come here to help and we get the word out to everybody, it's like you got 2 weeks left, and people might say, I'm not going to bother, because it can be overwhelming. And then by the time you meet with this person, do the work, you know, that's just my thoughts on it.
How do they get to be the authority and then have no responsibility? I just don't get that. To me, it seems counterintuitive to consider that the government extend themselves into the area of totalitarianism, authoritarianism, where the democracy is breaking down. That's what's happening.
Well, yeah, this was just sort of presented as an option. I mean, this could be put to the territorial government. At least if we put it to them that there's additional help out there, if they can't do it all themselves, we've done what we can. Because later on, if we find out that not enough people have filled in this gap, there's simple questions I could ask and I wouldn't be able to get an answer to. For example, what is actually covered by the DAP in relation to household goods? What are the limits that they've set? They've alluded to that. They've said that, well, don't expect to be reimbursed for everything in your house. To give you the example of the TV, if you had a $2,000 TV, well, there's a limit for a TV. You're only going to get a $500 TV. But nothing on the form says that. Where this arbitrary $500 came from, that's some committee that set up and decided that, yeah, up here, even though TVs cost more than anywhere else, you only get $500. Now, maybe we should know all that information and compare it to what other provinces do, but we don't know that because this is the first flood we went through. I could question that, but I feel as though we're like a one-armed man getting into a ring with somebody who at least has more resources than us. And I mean, especially
Mayor Wally?
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I believe you are missing the point. We are just looking at the 75,000. We don't forget that this is a very special request for a very specific, special reason. We right now, we almost have a memorandum of understanding with the Red Cross. That doesn't mean that whenever we have a disaster, they're going to come and charge us the whatever help they do. We don't see how much the help could be in the future for our community here. We are in a disaster zone. We have fire, we have floods. This is nothing, honestly. I don't think we should be arguing about it, because the government has to pay it, because I don't think the government have the employees who go door to door to ask people, or if we can call them, as the council first mentioned, that they can even be called to come to the rec center or wherever center, and they get help. We have a lot of people who lost a lot of stuff in this flood, but they don't even know. And that might be the question. Those might be the questions that the Red Cross are going to go and ask people, how we help our community to go back, to get back to be normal. If you guys don't want them, it's okay. It's your choice. But I believe this is a very good opportunity. First, it's nothing. This is, as you mentioned, it's just peanuts. It's not a lot of money. And whatever the benefit that come back to the community is going to be very valuable and very much. This is how we should look at it. Next time when we have a disaster, they are not going to charge us. When we have a problem, they won't, because they're going to raise their own money to come and help us. That's how it is. And I can tell you that, the NWT at that time is not going to come and help us. They're going to come and say, we told you that we helped you before. You didn't learn your lesson. We are not going to help you. Honestly, this is a very good opportunity for us to deal with them. And when Chief Antoine called them and they came, I don't think even he questioned that, how are you guys going to cost us? Because he knows them. They are the chief of LKF, and when he called them, he knows what they could do. And it's really a good opportunity for us, honestly.
Okay, and what's the question gonna be? Like, cause we're not actually voting on it.
Okay,
There was no motion, you'd have to make one.
yeah, I think we should just let them come.
Okay, well, maybe you should,
Sean?
yeah, talk about who's gonna pay. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
So are you suggesting that you think we should make a motion to request Red Cross to assist us with a review of the EMO plan? Thank you.
That may come after. I think
They will.
while they're here, that can actually be some of the work could be undertaken. They're gonna gather up a lot more information while they're here. It'd be a chance for us to interact with them on the ground. They can be doing this other work as well. Like, there's a lot of mental health work that's gonna need to be done in this community. If anybody can tell me, has there been any mental health worker outreach in this community? I've seen none.
Nothing.
We talked about the dangers of after a disaster and the.
I beg to differ.
No.
We brought in some people for this week during our treaty
Okay,
gathering.
Okay.
Yeah,
but on your
there's people-
own, right?
Yeah, on our own. And it's,
Yeah, not the
Yeah.
government.
well, we know there's problems there. It just came
Yeah.
up and it expanded, so.
And that's good. I'm glad
Talking
to
about
hear.
everything, not just the flood.
Oh, yeah, there were problems
Okay,
before.
so, if you need a motion, then, I don't mind to make a motion to request Red Cross to come in and assist with our, EMO plan.
We're talking
Independent
about
review.
this.
Right, that's the
First.
independent review that we were looking for. That's,
Yes, Ben.
yeah, that's that I'm interested in, because that's where I can see they could help immediately, because there's more to this than meets the eye, and I'd like to get to the bottom of it. I'm not the guy to spearhead an investigation, but.
And so, Sean, we already have a motion that was passed requesting an independent review. And I noticed on, the SAO's, report, he had a lot of questions. I'm sure they can answer those questions for him, and if he can reach out to them, that would be great. Saying that we want an independent review, and if they're able to do it, I think that motion that we did on June 7th still stands, and we can just work on that. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
I would support Celine's motion on calling the Red Cross for helping the residents to fill up their forms, and in the meantime, they can help in the review. Thank you.
Okay, well, why not do both?
Both, yeah. Both is good.
So if a motion along the lines of, that the village requests that the GNWT assist financially, to get the Red Cross to further an emergency planning review and assist citizens with DAP form submissions. And those two things could kind of be mixed. We'd have to get an update on how many days they would be dedicated to the review process while they were here. And then I take it they'd probably go away and give some thought to the actual recommendations and what have you. But this could be their raw information, collecting a lot of it here for the stuff they need to be on hand to do, interviews, site visits, things like that. So this costing that we could approach the territorial government with those two items in mind, right? DAP form assistance for our citizens, which we think is beyond 60. It's well over 100. It's got to be, and also to assist with commencing the emergency planning review.
There's, yeah, that's right, yeah. Sure. Yeah, definitely. Those are the
Two things we want, right? And we could break it up so there's separate pricing on those two things, you know, how many days for this, how many. So Let me just see,
Well,
two,
this brings the question that we're really not happy with the services we're getting from NACA, and they're changing and failing our flood victims. They need to step up, and you need to make a political statement saying that they need to step up to helping our victims.
Yeah, like we can wind up, the flood victims can be re-victimized by people politically just trying to grease each other. And then who's the victims? The flood victims are re-victimized, right? For the sake of political slippery. And that's what I'm seeing. So in favor of you guys brown nosing to each other, maybe they, instead of that, how about get those guys to lean on those guys and get them to do their job? You know, that's not happening, right? The whole glad handing thing is depriving people of the services that they are needing.
right, so
Yeah.
who wants to move this motion? I just better read it again because I make little changes. The motion would read to assist or to request that the GNWT pay to get the Red Cross to further an emergency planning or to conduct, right?
No, it's to conduct an independent review of our emergency measures operations.
That's right. That's what everybody's trying to avoid. I could see it. That's what's gonna happen.
To conduct an independent review of the village's emergency planning performance.
Emergency measures operation planning for review and improvements.
How about emergency measures and planning? I mean, we'll, just for now, it's kind of everything, right? Wow.
No, it has to reflect that June 7th motion that was passed.
Right. Do we have that?
I'll just,
Because the wording
yeah.
should sort of correlate, right?
It says here to conduct an independent review of the village's emergency plan and the actions that proceeded from the plan during 2020. That's the motion you're looking for.
Okay.
It was the first thing the Red Cross brought up was so that's why it was, I remember what they said. They said that's the first thing that they have to look at is they got to look at all the invoices and all the checks and see what really happened. And that's the only way that we can do this. I want to see the invoices and the checks, everything for the last 2 months since that flood started. And then we'll see the real picture will begin to emerge. And that's what the kind of people are in. It's the first thing they do is to identify organizations who opportunistically will get in there and opportunistically take advantage of the emergency to the detriment of the well-being of the community residents. And that's what's and that's what they're here to do. And that's what they said. They said that's what normally happens is that the flood will turn into a cesspool of an emergency can turn into turn into a so that's what has to be avoided next time, because that's what happened this time. And somebody died because of it. And, if that weren't the case, maybe things would be different. But I'm getting flack. I'm getting people leaning on me to say something at village council meeting about it because nobody else is. There's nothing going on, right? And meanwhile, everybody's just trying to now slip past it or whatever. But, geez, why does it happen? There's a racism, like an apartheid situation all of a sudden. An emergency apartheid situation is what it looked like to me.
It was brought up before.
Yeah, I'm glad it, because it's serious, and I don't want that to happen again. And here they said they could provide us with a fire emergency procedures and assistance to persist with that. And they said they could do it in real short time and everything like that. You know, we're gonna act on that too. I wanna, you know, get these guys on that stuff. It's what we need. We could have a fire next week. And if these guys had the plan in place for us, they said they could do it in a couple of days. Let's just get it here. You know, help these, there's a couple of, we got to triage this Red Cross and try to get them to help with what they're specifically really experts at. You know, like I said, they're just, you know, putting together the quick, you know, how do we manage the emergency scene management and and you know, they've got specialty skills that we can really tap into and benefit from.
Yeah,
Okay,
Randy,
so-
we were all at the meeting.
So if I I put the motion together like this, to request that the GNWT pay to get the Red Cross to conduct an independent review of the village's emergency plan. I'll say for the village. Because this is not something that we're expecting them to do on us. It's for us, for the village, and the actions that proceeded from that plan during the 2021 flood in Fort Simpson. Also, that the Red Cross be hired to assist with disaster assistance form submissions and other aftercare services following the flood. There's a whole range of services they outline here, mental health, things like that they can provide. And we could get that proposal put together. If that motion is okay, we can have something moved and seconded by, moved by Councillor Hassan.
Moved by Celine, I believe, by Deputy Mayor.
Is that, you want to move that, Deputy Mayor? It's
Yes.
okay. And Councillor Hassan second. So any further discussion?
See the wording again?
Okay.
I want to call for question, sure.
Okay, I'll read it one more time because it's just a question. It's a long paragraph. To request that the GNWT pay to get the Red Cross to conduct an independent review of the village's emergency plan for the village and the actions that proceeded from the plan during the 2021 flood in Fort Simpson. Also, that the Red Cross be hired to assist with disaster assistance form submissions and other aftercare services following the flood.
I just have one more issue, Sean. You say at the beginning you said that GNWT would pay for it, and if they refuse to pay for it, does that kill the request, our request for an independent review from the Red Cross?
That'll be included.
This one would until we decide what the GNWT, or we find out what the GNWT is willing to do, and at that point, I guess we'll decide whether we should pay for the review ourselves.
That's not the intent of the motion we did on June 7th.
Right.
It's to do an independent report.
Right, but that's why I think the budget's important. We haven't even got a scope of work or a budget yet. I mean,
Yeah, this price is for specifically helping with the forms. If we're adding this to it,
Yeah.
it could be more, it could be
I
100,000.
mean that you got to balance things here with the cost of the review versus who's paying, and
I'm kind of having a feeling that we're working away from this independent review and we're mixing it up with other issues. We need to keep them clearly separate. So I don't know what the move is there, but maybe you're looking at two motions. I don't know.
okay. We've got SAO Corrigan with a suggestion.
Can I suggest that by next Monday's meeting, I talk to the Red Cross about doing this independent review and possibly doing
Get a
it
quote.
at the same time they're in town, if we bring them to town for help with the forms. So I can have that discussion with the Red Cross. And number two, I can talk to the GNWT and try and get them to confirm that they will pay for these services.
Or what part of it they may
Or what
pay.
they will pay for, if anything.
That
And
still
then-
doesn't answer my question about if the GNWT doesn't pay. Are we killing that motion saying that we want an independent review?
And my suggestion is that I have these conversations with the Red Cross and the GNWT, and then next meeting, we'll be able to move forward one way or another. At least then we'll know.
I just-
Well, my question still wasn't answered, but yeah, go ahead.
I feel like your question is that if this falls through, if the government doesn't want to pay for this, we're not, then obviously this particular motion wouldn't work because we're saying the government pay for all of this. If that were to fall through, then it comes back to us and then we could motion if we want to pay for it ourselves. And by then we would have an idea of how much it would cost after Kevin speaks with them. And if they say it's $100,000, then it comes to us, we make a motion if we at the table agree that's a good spending of our money, for taxpayer dollars. And we go from there or decide which parts we want or don't want. That's how I understand it.
I don't think that's acceptable. I think we need to have the independent review and make the government accountable that their services in helping our victims is not acceptable and they need to step up on that right away.
Yeah,
I hope the Red Cross can help with that. That's what I was kind
they
of.
may actually be able to help us with the scope of work.
Let's
I think we really got to talk to them. I think we got to get a little more back in front of you guys to help decide how this is going to work.
I think we should invite them to our next meeting.
Well, they seem pretty good at putting up proposals, like just. I mean,
So, Mr. Chair, what's your recommendation?
I think I like the SAO's suggestion. He talks to the Red Cross, kind of breaks up some of these costs a little bit, gives them a bit of information on the type of work that we're looking for them to do. Also, at the same time, discusses the possibility of the government of Northwest Territories partnering with us in order to deliver some of these badly needed services. And as a matter of fact, this review helps us, but it helps them. I mean, they should be looking to help us, even though it won't be the review of themselves. It's for really the citizens.
Okay, can I get, because you guys called for a lunch meeting on Wednesday. Would there be a possibility of getting some answers by Wednesday lunch meeting?
I can try.
Then that way the
Works for
decision
me.
can be made then.
Yeah.
I can do it first thing tomorrow.
How does that sound? Rather than head with this particular motion, which, I mean, the GNWT first question, how much is it going to cost? We only got a partial answer to that so far. And what's the work going to look like? We need a proposal that identifies what is going to be included in this independent review, I think.
Sorry.
Yep.
I feel like there's a good chance the government will say, put it in the claim, and we're not giving any guarantee, which doesn't really help us much because then that's quite a lot of money to not have to not know for sure whether we're getting it back or not.
But the cost of, if a person hadn't, if things hadn't turned out the way they had, it would be a little bit more gray water, but in my mind, a little bit gray area, but in my mind, if we don't do the right thing right now, then the same thing can happen again next year, right? And so this is a life prevention. This is actually a more important thing. There's actually a real responsibility now, and I have to start to call this or bring it to focus, but that without the authority, the responsibility goes with it. So the responsibility is ours of certain events that happened that are unfortunate and that we're somehow related to now, and that somehow and for us to now put the price and say it's too much, but wait a minute, we have to avoid that again. We don't have a choice. We have to do better. It's not acceptable. It's not an acceptable loss. It was preventable. And this is what my point is that if we can take the right steps right now, boy, we can do a good job and prevent that from happening next time. So if we can make that happen right now, let's do it. And I don't know what that's going to take, but gee whiz, it's more serious than that's what, like, there's,
Well, why don't we just let Kevin find out some information for us the next day And then that way it will know whether or not we're gonna get help. If not, then we can come back and say, okay, internally, how can we do this?
Start changing
Okay?
our direction a bit.
Yeah, it's because we can
Sure.
talk for the next hour on this and not get anywhere, because I like that, Kevin, you have some conversations, and then if they're saying, no, we can't do it, then we come back and look internally and say, then we know exactly what we're gonna do.
And we can
And
get that in writing
yeah.
from them perhaps.
And
We'll
then we'll put
include
it on
that.
CBC.
Absolutely.
Yeah, then
Yeah.
we can do something.
Yeah,
Bring
Yeah,
up the case of the Yukon. In the Yukon, they had a bit of a COVID outbreak. The Yukon government called in the Red Cross. They didn't say we're gonna hire more health workers. They just brought in the Red Cross. I mean, it's a resource, and so it would be odd if they weren't willing to use them more to assist us and citizens.
Mhm. So, okay.
We're gonna make that point clearly. Okay, that's maybe the route we'll go, and we'll be talking again on Wednesday. We'll include that in the discussion, okay?
Was that motion rescinded or?
So does the mover and seconder want to withdraw this motion, just so we don't, it's kind of a, let's redesign this after our Wednesday meeting.
Yeah.
A suggestion. Is that okay? Mover and seconder?
If we leave it till Wednesday, then on Wednesday, is that a special meeting where we can still entertain?
Hmm,
We could call it a special meeting if you'd like.
make it a special meeting then. It'll be something that a motion can be passed, yeah, a resolution can be passed. We'll do it that way. Okay? It's important, so we'll do it that way. All right, I'll take it. That's a concern, and we'll do it that way. So with that, you'll withdraw the motion for now? It's either that or we table it. We get a,
I prefer to table it. I don't wanna
okay. But for now, yeah, okay.
I agree with Councillor Hassan.
Okay, so I don't even know if that's quite Robert's Rules of Order, the mover is seconder tables, but does somebody else want to move to table? I guess with the new information, Councillor Hassan's moving to table now. And also the mover, Deputy Mayor, seconds that motion to table. So any more discussion? Okay, show of hands, everybody in favor of tabling? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and both Deputy Mayor and Councillor Hassan in favor of tabling? Yes?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor, yes? So,
Reluctantly, yes.
okay, so 7 in favor to table, and we'll have this item come up again on Wednesday, okay? All right. And then we're on to item number, is it 12?
12A.
12A, yeah, which is the bylaw to actually amend our emergency response and protective services bylaw. This is the increase in the protective services ambulance. Moved by Councillor McPherson, seconded by Councillor Bellefontaine, that bylaw 2021-003, a bylaw to amend the emergency response and protective services bylaw, be read a third time and passed. Any last thoughts, discussions on this item? As we were all made aware earlier in the meeting, this bylaw helps to cover the costs of the hiring of a new protective services fire chief. Anymore? All in favor? 5. Councillor Hassan, you in favor?
Yeah.
Okay, and Deputy Mayor?
Yes.
Okay, 7 in favor, none against. Motion's carried. We got another one here.
Ski Hill lease. This is it.
Oh, right,
So that's the,
not
okay.
necessarily the.
And I think I might have forgotten that motion.
Okay, we're just gonna wait a second to get, another motion here to, oh, wait a minute,
Is that it?
no.
Can you just,
Right
would you
around the
mind just writing on the back of one, I'll type it up.
Okay,
after.
we'll do it that way. Okay, just give me a second here. Second.
Bylaw 2021-004.
Is it the third reading?
That's the first and then the
Second,
second, so
okay.
two motions.
Right.
Bylaw 2021-004, a bylaw to acquire a lease.
Let me just see how you read. Right.
I'm sorry, was that?
Oh, that's all right.
Bylaw, and then the number be read a first time. A bylaw to acquire a lease on
On the
the lease
speed.
from the territorial government,
Right.
from the Commissioner of the North Territories.
Was this for that fire management area?
This is the
Fire-
bylaw that we're reading right now, so
Yeah.
not the fire management area, this is the ski hill.
Oh, ski.
So-
Okay.
We did a resolution on this back in January. And actually, I think it was actually last year we did so we've been trying to get a lease for a number of years now on this area to just so we can go and do some more work on the ski hill and develop trails back there.
Yeah.
And do some work on the top.
What's the
We just-
parcel called, like,
It doesn't have a name,
okay,
so it'll be a sketch number after we get the lease.
okay,
But right now, I would just say, refer to the attached drawing, the attached sketch, if you wanted to refer to something, or else refer to the area known as the ski hill. One or the other. If you want to refer to the attached sketch, we'll just attach that to the motion.
the ski hill area as it is known. Okay, so the motion would read that bylaw 2021-004, a bylaw to acquire a lease as shown on attached sketch of the ski hill area as it is known, as shown on an attached sketch. Let's just leave it at that. Of land locally known as the ski hill as shown on an attached sketch. There, that makes more sense. That the bylaw 2021-004, a bylaw to acquire a lease of land locally known as the ski hill as shown on an attached sketch from the Commissioner of the NWT be read a first time. And can I get a mover and a seconder for that?
I'll move.
Okay,
I'll second.
Councillor McPherson and Councillor Bellefontaine. Any discussion? Okay, those in favor? Got 5 here, and Councillor Hassan,
Yes.
6, Deputy Mayor?
Abstain.
Abstain, okay. 6 yes, 1 abstention. Motion's carried. Now, we're gonna move that and second it again, but only with the change in the wording. It'll be read a second time now. So can I get a mover and a seconder for that? Okay, Bellefontaine and Lafferty. Mover Bellefontaine, seconder Councillor Lafferty, that bylaw 2021-004, a bylaw to acquire a lease of land locally known as the Ski Hill, as shown on an attached sketch from the Commissioner of the NWT, be read a second time. All those in favor? 5 in favor, Councillor Hassan
Yes.
and Deputy Mayor.
Abstain.
Okay, that's 1 abstain, 6 yeses. So that motion is carried as well. And now, correspondence and information. None. Council matters and concerns. Okay, we'll go quickly around the table, or does anybody want to offer any? I don't know if,
I don't have anything.
I don't have
Major.
anything.
does anybody have any? No?
Not at this
No.
time.
Okay, then I'll take it, we can skip over that part. We don't have any in camera?
No.
All right, then I've got a motion moved by Councillor Bellefontaine, seconded by,
Civiston.
oh, okay, Councillor Siviston, that council adjourn regular meeting RM 13-2021 at 9:35 PM. All in favor?
Yes.
5, Councillor Hassan?
Yes.
And Deputy Mayor?
Yes.
Okay, so that's 7 in favor, none against. Motions to adjourn is carried. Everybody have a great evening. Thank you very much. We'll meet again on Wednesday at noon.
Wonder what the score is for the hockey.
I don't know.
When I left, it was 2-0 Montreal. They scored 2 quick goals, one after another, in the last 4 minutes or so.
They did, well, I hope they won.
That was just
Oh,
in the
yeah,
first
so
period.